You're live now. Hey, everyone.
Oh, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name's Joey Weaver. He's Mike McDaniel. Mike, it seems like Scott is up past his bedtime. How are you doing?
That he is. And you know what, Joey? That makes three of us.
That sure does. It sure does. It is 12:25 on the East Coast. We are live, youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. Week 8 is officially in the books. We got a whole bunch of games we're going to recap as we do here. Mike, how did your day go? Good day of game watching for you?
I did not see a ton of the noon window live. We were actually just talking about this right before we hit record. Had to do a lot of rewatching during my SI shift tonight, which is fine. That's what happens sometimes. I have a kid. Joey has kids. Scott, you have a kid. This is what happens when we get old and have children. We have obligations. And there were a bunch of nooners this week, but that's fine. That's what YouTube TV is for. So
That's right. It's
fine.
Let's get into these games. We had 8 games spanning back Thursday, Friday, and now 6 on Saturday. Do we want to do a 10-minute Rhoback rapid recap?
Put it on the board, baby.
On the board, we have producer Scott back with us for the recap show. So we've got the timer back on the video here. If you're watching on youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. By the way, before we go any further, we are still shooting for 500 subscribers. We're getting very, very close. Appreciate everyone's help. If you're watching right now and you have not yet, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon if you want to find out when we go live Saturday nights or Wednesday nights doing the previews. That would be really helpful for us. Please.
It would. Hit that subscribe button.
Do it. All right, 10 minutes on the clock. Mike, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. In 3, 2, and 1. We start with Thursday night. Virginia Tech 42, Boston College 21. Dare I say weird game, but Virginia Tech mostly completely dominated this except for the entire third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, down by down, it was a really dominant performance by Virginia Tech. Bashal Tutin set a single-game rushing record for Virginia Tech. He went for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, had a touchdown reception as well. Boston College simply did not have the juice with their rushing defense. We talked about that on the preview. I stated that Virginia Tech was probably the best rushing offense they played. That was the case. I did not expect Bashal Tutin to set a school record in this game, but he did. Virginia Tech had 2 really, really bad turnovers in the third quarter, set up BC with 2 short fields, gave Boston College, essentially gifted them 14 points. That was really tough. But overall, a pretty good performance. Virginia Tech defensively as well had a pretty good night in terms of getting sacks. If you're Antoine Powell-Ryland, speaking of making history, that was his 3rd career 4-sack game at Virginia Tech. He is the only player in school history to do that, and that is a school that has Bruce Smith in the Hall of Fame. He is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and that's pretty good company to be in.
Yeah, Hokies defense, by and large, overwhelmed Boston College's offense in this game, except for, again, a few drives in the third quarter. We will talk about that. Friday night, Duke 23, Florida State 16. I don't know what to even say about Florida State at this point. I mean, again, good win for Duke.
Stunk.
Definitely that.
Right on the money, yeah.
Duke gets its first ever win over Florida State as a school. Good win for Manny Diaz in that program. Florida State, was this going to be 2-10 probably?
Yeah, probably. Hopefully they beat Charleston Southern.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
They
had 3 turnovers on 3 consecutive offensive plays in this game. That tells you everything you need to know. This Duke defense is good. It's not that good.
Yeah. Big yikes. On Saturday, number 6, Miami 52, Louisville 45. Mike, this game ended 9 hours ago, and I still need a cigarette.
Hope you like offense.
Yeah.
Man, there were a couple of interesting calls in this game, we'll say.
You will never believe this, Mike. This was a game with Miami that came down to a highly consequential replay review late in the game. and the replay review returned something that I'm not so sure I agree with, and that went in Miami's favor and helped them win the game. That hasn't happened in like 6 or 7 days now, so it's, we were due for one of those.
Well, definitely a controversial call. I agreed with the call. Fine. What I didn't agree with was the holding non-call on an earlier Miami touchdown play that I think is way more controversial than the only reason why this play at the end was more controversial is because it was legitimately like winning time. It was like down to the wire. But I thought the earlier missed holding on the earlier Miami touchdown in the third quarter was way more egregious. But anyway.
Yeah, well, what we're talking about basically was a Cam Ward potential strip sack picked up by Louisville, run in for a touchdown that would have tied the game. It gets called back. I disagree. I don't think that you had enough to overturn it to call it incomplete. It was, and then like 4 plays later, Miami goes down, takes a 2-score lead instead. So
yeah,
I mean, obviously a huge swing in how
gigantic.
the game turned out, and Miami continues to survive in 1-score games.
Cam Ward's good.
He's very, very good. Very, very good.
Of the year.
Number 10, Clemson 48, Virginia 31. What are we doing letting Tony Muskett throw for multiple touchdowns with less than 3 minutes to go here to ruin the Clemson cover, Mike?
Yeah, that was really frustrating. And that was a peak calling off the dog situation. Hey, shout out to Virginia. They took an early lead in this game because Cade Klubnik threw an interception. UVA capitalized. Good thing they capitalized there because basically took until the end of the game to really get anything going offensively, and it was against all of Clemson's backups. So yeah. This went pretty much exactly how we thought.
Yep. Yeah. Notre Dame, number 12, Notre Dame 31, Georgia Tech 13. My wife asked me, like, is this what you expected? I said it's a little bit worse than I expected. I didn't expect him to win. It wasn't pretty. The tackling was bad. I thought Zach Pyron played fine. If anything, I had an issue. They left him in as long as they did, and he got absolutely beat to hell in the fourth quarter. And you might need him next week in Blacksburg, so careful there. Notre Dame really good. Georgia Tech did not have answers for Notre Dame's pass rush. I don't know. I think honestly, Mike, my biggest takeaway from this game, I don't know if you heard, Notre Dame has a 63% chance to make the playoff now that they won this game. So that's a big point of emphasis throughout the broadcast. Notre Dame 63% to make the playoff. They checked the math.
Yeah, they mentioned that a couple times, we'll say.
I saw Jessica Smetana, who is a national college football reporter, big Notre Dame fan. I saw her crying and complaining late in this game on Twitter, like, leave me alone about the playoff. I don't want to hear about Notre Dame. So you had Notre Dame fans that were like sick of hearing about this in this game. So I don't know why the broadcast focuses in on what they do, but they did. Number 21, SMU 40, Stanford 10. No real comments here. This is fine.
None. Stanford stinks.
Yeah. SMU, just absolute boat race situation, got out to a big lead early and just kind of cruised. As you mentioned, Mike, Stanford, technical term, stinks.
Bad.
Wake Forest, 23, UConn, 20. Wake gets it done. Look at the Deeks going on the road, underdogs, going into... Oh, goodness. Going into Jim Mora's house, and they get it done.
The house that Jim Mora built, some are saying.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah. Impressive from Wake, man. I don't know. This was a game I really had a hard time previewing because I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. Wake racks up almost 400 yards of offense here. So really, really good stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Last one, NC State 24, Cal 23. All right. Flowers for NC State.
Yes.
They came up with some big stuff in the fourth quarter. A comeback win. CJ Bailey had some big plays when it really counted. Credit to the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Cal, good Lord. We're doing this again?
4 losses by 9 points total. So
that is really hard to stomach if you're a Cal fan. Goodness.
Yeah. They should at least be 2-2 in those 4 games, but here we are.
By the way, since we got 2 minutes here, that thing that we mentioned on the preview about Cal's kicking game being kind of a problem, boy, that reared its ugly head in this game too, didn't it?
Yep, it did. Derek Morris made 3, but the one that he missed was incredibly consequential, Joey.
What was that, a 33-yarder or something? I mean, it was pretty short, pretty makeable, and just completely didn't yank it. He pushed it.
A 28-yarder it was,
yeah,
officially.
From the left hash, wide right. Big yikes.
Yeah, they got the ball back, which is not enough time. They used all their timeouts. They got off the field defensively, but then they had like a minute and just, yeah.
Well, and again, credit to NC State. I mean, especially that last drive, but to some degree, just late in this game, their defense and especially that pass rush, like really put the clamps on Cal. They were really getting after Frankie Mendoza late in this game. So
yeah,
credit to the Wolfpack defense
for sure.
Mike, I think that's all I got on the rapid recap.
We did it in just under 9 minutes.
That's right. That's right. That rapid recap brought to you by Rhoback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order. They got a lot of great polos, all sorts of different active wear. Mike, take it for a second.
A lot of real comfortable stuff. I love my Rhoback sweatshirts, polos, you name it. They got it. They got a college collection that's awesome. Virginia Tech's on that list. So you bet your ass that I've been taking a look at some of that stuff with the new promo code. But yeah, use promo code GOACC20 at checkout, 20% off your first order at Rhoback.com. We thank them for their sponsorship.
Absolutely.
Use your friend's email, use your work email, use your mom's email. Just keep using different email addresses. Doesn't matter about the shipping address. At least they haven't told me that yet. And
say, not that any of us have been doing that, but
right.
Just hypothetically, you could.
Right. It's like the whole offshore betting thing, out of state betting thing. Perfect ending.
There you go. Gosh, I've still got this cough thing going on, so I'm going to try not to ruin the show, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Mike, where do we start?
I mean, let's just stay on this. Well, you know what? I don't want to start with this game. This game was weird. Let's start with Miami 52, Louisville 45. Man, immediate takeaways here. Miami is skating on some thin ice, is what I would say. That's my first statement. It's now been multiple weeks in a row they're doing this for damn near a month. They're skating on really thin ice. The difference between this Miami and Miami of years past is Cam Ward's their quarterback. He's outstanding. That's the takeaway. That's the difference between this Miami team and previous Miami teams is they got quarterback right. And not only do they have it right, they have a Heisman contender at quarterback. He is ridiculous. Yeah. He's ridiculous. He pulls them out of the mud. When there's a trouble spot, he pulls them out of it. And he's really, really good. That's why when you look at Miami's schedule and they have 5 games remaining, they're going to be favored in every single one of them. And there's a pretty decent chance to go 5-0. And people are going to be sitting here at the end of the year looking at 12-0 Miami, an ACC title game against probably Clemson. And they're going to be looking at this and saying, you know what? Miami's 12-0, but we're still not sure if they're actually 12-0 good. But let me tell you what, if they navigate this schedule 12-0, you're going to want to give Cam Ward whatever he wants. If you want to give him the Heisman Trophy, he'll be in New York. At some point in time, there comes a point where we're going to have a lot of trouble calling Miami fraudulent. You can be in tight games, you can give up explosive plays on defense, but when you continuously win shootouts, when you win close games, when your quarterback is this good, you're just a good team, right? You're just a good team. I don't. We're just getting to a point where I'm if they just continuously do this, I don't know what to tell you. And
one of the things I've started thinking about the last couple days is, I mean, again, and we kind of talked about this right before, is that the quality of play they're getting from Cam Ward right now is really the thing that's propping up this team. And I mean, you could think about like what happens if he gets hurt. You know, heaven
Right.
forbid there's like a Joe Theismann situation, or even you just take a hit and you know your shoulder gets dislocated and something's
Jordan
not right
Travis. A Jordan
Yeah,
Travis
like-
situation.
there. Yeah, like anything like that. Anything like that happens, all of a sudden, again, this team gets, I think, significantly downgraded because I do think that they're being propped up by what is pretty legitimately Heisman level quarterback play. Like this is, he has been excellent in every game that we've seen so far. But the other thing that I thought about was, even if he's not injured, what happens if, I don't know, he stays up too late the night before a game, or like just something happens where he comes out and he's just not quite right for a game? They're at this point, they're probably going to lose because they're not playing with a ton of margin for a team that has a quarterback playing on the level that he's playing.
Agree.
So, and again, that's all credit to him because, again, he has been excellent in all 7 games we've seen him play so far. But it doesn't, you know, at the same time, this is not a flawless Miami team. Like they have had issues. That defense, there are yards and points to be had on that defense. You know, and so I don't know. This is not as complete of a Miami team as you would have hoped for with a top 6 ranking and being 7-0 and all that stuff.
But this goes back to like preseason expectations of Miami. I expected Miami to be like in the 10-2, 11-1 range. Like that's what I thought they would be. It looks like they're heading that direction. And I thought they'd be back half of the top 10 good. Like, I didn't think they'd be elite. I didn't think they'd be a top 5 team. I think there's a clear delineation between watching, like, Ohio State and Oregon and Georgia and Texas. And, I'm watching these teams, and I'm like, okay, Miami is not as good as those teams. Those are, like, the legitimate national title contenders. I don't think Miami is a national title contender. But I think they're pretty good, and they're back half of the top 10 good. So if you want to rank them anywhere between 6 and 10, be my guest. There's a lot of parity in college football this year, and there aren't that many teams where I'm going to put Miami on a neutral field against and not think they have a good chance to win because Cam Ward's been that good. To your point, there are points and yards to be had against this defense. But I look at this schedule. Florida State's not going to be scoring on them. Duke's not going to be scoring on them. Wake Forest isn't going to be scoring on them. So it's a 2-game season. It's Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And I think they could lose either one of those games. I think we could have that Georgia Tech game be very similar to the game we saw today against Louisville. Very high scoring, not a lot of defense, that sort of thing. I mean,
Cam Ward passing total over under 474.5 or something in that game.
Like probably over based on what I saw today with Riley Leonard, who is just not the passer. Obviously, Cam Ward is. So it's a 2-game season, in my opinion, for Miami. I know they've played some weird ones against Duke before. Congrats to Duke. We'll talk about Duke in a minute. Congrats to Duke, but like this is not truthfully, not a very good Duke team.
Yeah.
They're well coached.
We'll get there.
They're well coached, but this is not
Worst 6-1 team in the country.
They're pretty
Yeah.
They're very well coached. Like Diaz has them really well coached.
Yeah.
But talent-wise, I don't see it.
Yeah, we'll get to them here in a little bit. I will say I wanted to point out, I mean, I would say this was a little bit of a tale of two halves in this game, just the way that it all played out. The first half, you went into halftime, Miami had a 24-17 lead. The difference was Louisville got pinned deep by a Miami punt. They were on their own 3-yard line. There was a handoff to Isaac Brown. He fumbled, and Miami fell on it in the end zone for a touchdown, basically a defensive touchdown. So between that and then Louisville on the ensuing drive missed a field goal. So you basically had a 10-point swing on 2 possessions there for Louisville, and they were down 7 at halftime. And then, Mike, if you don't mind, I want to just quickly go through the second half drive chart, if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Touchdown, kickoff return for a touchdown, 1-play fumble, touchdown, 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 4 plays punt, touchdown, touchdown, end of game. So
Yep.
yeah, this basically turned into a giant track meet in the second half. And as mentioned, Miami able to get out to a 2-score lead there on, when Louisville had to punt, and then Miami goes down and scores their touchdown, and that was it. So again, Miami winning games in a very specific way right now. And, as you mentioned, I mean, you look at what's left on the schedule, and it's not hard to see them finishing this out and potentially going 12-0 and having a date in Charlotte with what we would assume would be Clemson at this point.
Yeah. Just I'm looking at the game on paper stuff. Both offenses had 11 explosive plays. Louisville, 0.37 expected points added per play. Miami, 0.33 expected points added per play. That's in the 96th and 93rd percentile, respectively. Miami had a 49% success rate. Louisville had a 48% success rate. This was a very even football game in terms of down to down. Very even. Louisville obviously stole points off of that kickoff return, but Miami probably stole some points on that holding that wasn't called in the third quarter.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you start playing that game, it's like, okay, this is just kind of how it was going to go. Yeah, I mean, really what this boils down to for me, and I know there's a lot of frustration in terms of the officiating at the end of this game. I still think that call was right, but even if you don't think it's right, it's like Miami had Cam Ward at the that was the difference for me. It's a 7-point game. It's close. It's back and forth. There are explosive plays all over the field. Miami had Cam Ward. And when you have Cam Ward on your team, you have one or two more plays offensively in most cases than your opponent. And that's how I felt like this game played out today.
Yep.
So I thought Louisville played really well. It's tough. You get in a shootout with a team with that quarterback, and it's just not going to be something that you're going to win 6 or 7 times out of 10. It's just hard. They're too explosive.
Yep, completely. Last thing, and then I'm good to move on here. I did want to bring up the comment from Meme Enthusiast who mentioned Louisville's tackling. And that was something I noticed throughout this game too, was Louisville's defense. The tackling is rough. And I mean, there were some of it was, like Damian Martinez bowls over someone or something. I mean, a good play by the offensive player, but there are a number of cases where you've just got guys that are diving at feet and kind of missing, or they're taking bad angles. Like Louisville's defense, I think, the offense, Tyler Shuck, maybe not quite what I thought it was going to be coming into the year. The defense, definite point of disappointment. And
yeah,
I don't blame you for giving up 50 points to Miami, but some of the individual plays, it's like you had chances to stall out drives. I mean, Miami's first drive of the second half, they converted, I think, 4 third downs, and Louisville's defense drops an interception in that drive. And it's like you had so many chances to swing the momentum in your favor and just couldn't take advantage of any of them. And so it's like I think Louisville's defense just continues to miss opportunities week after week.
Yeah. It's been a running topic of discussion on this podcast here for about 5 or 6 weeks now, how bad the Louisville defense has played, and it's just kind of continued. So
Yep. Number 6, Miami 52, Louisville 45.
Let's talk Georgia Tech. Notre Dame 31, Georgia Tech 13. My takeaway here is that Georgia Tech, I know they're missing some guys on defense, but it was bad on defense today. And this is a good Notre Dame offense, but it was bad on defense. The special teams issues continue to rear their ugly head. We had a muffed field goal attempt. They muffed the snap before halftime. Then we had a field goal attempt later that was blocked. Defense is missing tackles all over the field. Notre Dame, how many slants did they run? They just ran 1 million slants and just kept completing them at a really high clip. And it was soft coverage and rough.
If you look at the stats and you see that Riley Leonard threw for 200 yards in this game, I want you to understand that there were maybe 40 air yards there, and most of that is guys just running wild after the catch. Really short stuff that Tech just, defenders just out of position and using the wrong leverage and bad angles and missed tackles. And I mean, kind of a calamity of as soon as he got the ball out, I mean, it was a mess in a lot of ways. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
As you mentioned, I mean, the special teams, a total mess. Again, the field goal, the snap that was botched, and the kick that was blocked later, like the punting wasn't really great. I mean, just ridiculous. Like you didn't really have much margin for error if you're trying to like hang in and win this game. And they went way past that. I mean, it was kind of a sloppy performance in a lot of ways from Georgia Tech here.
Yeah, I just didn't. Notre Dame had a 48% success rate. That was 81st percentile on Saturday. Like they went up and down the field here, and it was the dink and dunk stuff. Like you said, there weren't a ton of explosive plays. Notre Dame only had 3 the entire game. It was the short passes and a lot of the run after the catch stuff. Like Leonard did not put a lot of pressure, and he hasn't just all year. He hasn't done this with anybody. He's not going to put a lot of pressure on you with passes deep down the field. It's just like not what he does. And you did more of it at Duke, but he's doing a lot less of it at Notre Dame. They're just asking him to do less in that regard.
He didn't even do that much of it at Duke, but he's doing less
right.
of it now. Yeah.
Less of it now. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you're disappointed by the tackling for sure. You're disappointed with you mentioned the whole leverage thing, that the bad angles with the tackling. It just seemed like Notre Dame found something in the Georgia Tech defense and went back to it over and over and over again. And Georgia Tech either just didn't adjust or simply just wasn't game there. And again, you're missing guys in the middle of the defense. I get that, and that's important, and that's context you need to have here. But this Notre Dame offense, while it's been more balanced over the last month, it's been explosive in the running game all year. It hasn't been explosive in the passing game, and it felt like they were just making a lot of hay in the passing game today, which opened up a lot of run stuff in the second half, especially with Jeremiah Love. Like he broke off a couple of pretty decent runs. Jadarian Price had a couple of long runs. All of a sudden, it was like kind of a bit of an avalanche offensively for Notre Dame. And then the mistakes on special teams for Georgia Tech. I mean, you can't have 3 points just wiped off the board before halftime. I mean, that was a relatively easy field goal, like straightforward field goal after a pretty good drive before half. And, you hit on explosive pass play and, you feel like you're making some progress, and you don't even get 3 points out of that drive. And the 3 points later in the second half on the blocked field goal hurt. But yeah, when you're, this ballooned up to like a 2-touchdown spread once it was officially announced that Haynes King was out. You're not going to cover and make things really interesting if you're down your starting quarterback, a couple key guys on defense, and then you make all the errors that you made in this game. So it was just like it was a lot of stuff. The pregame stuff, losing key players, and then just not playing well with the guys that were available. So
well, and especially finding out that Kyle Eford wasn't going to play. That's your middle linebacker. I mean, Eford, I think, very much has his flaws in pass coverage. Like, is outright a liability in pass coverage, we'll say. But like, he's one of your better run defenders and probably one of the better run defending linebackers in the ACC. He's your leading tackler, like all this stuff. The linebacker position has been a problem when everyone's healthy. When you lose your best linebacker, it's just that much more exacerbated. So
yeah,
that was where I think that really mattered, was at that position in particular. Like you really couldn't afford to lose someone, and you did, and didn't really know about that. Hadn't heard about that throughout the week, so like that kind of caught me by surprise. Rod Shelley, your starting nickel corner as well, he was out, and again, just not the level of depth I think on this defense that would be able to survive that for this game. What do I want? Zach Pyron. Honestly, I thought Zach Pyron looked pretty good. And again,
played well. Yeah.
This game kind of, as it went on, you got into more like where everything is a passing down basically, and Notre Dame's pass rush, especially in the fourth quarter, was like overwhelming Georgia Tech's offensive front. And so it was, Pyron taking the snap, hitting the top of his drop, and just almost immediately had defenders in his lap, and you're dodging people, and it was just a really uncomfortable situation that really wasn't like totally his fault. But I thought he made some good throws. He looked pretty good for a lot of this. The Georgia Tech run game could get nothing going here. Notre Dame's defense just completely smothered that, and all credit to them. I mean, I do think Georgia Tech made some mental mistakes at times. I mean, there were some dumb penalties throughout the way, but like they the bread and butter of this offense is the rushing attack, and they could not get anything going there on the ground this entire game. And on some level, it's not surprising. Like that's just, again, Notre Dame's defense, and especially that defensive front, very well coached, very, very talented. Like that is the best part of that whole team. And so, I mean, disappointed that it was as much a blowout as it kind of turned into, but I'm not like totally torn up about this. We figured they were going to lose this game. Again, you don't have your starting quarterback. You're missing multiple starters on defense that were like game day kind of things. Like you had a really thin margin anyways coming into this game, and it didn't happen. It's fine. Move on.
It was a popular, I don't want to say it was a popular upset pick, but it was a popular pick for, it was seen as a very tough matchup for Notre Dame because of the number. Yeah, because of the number. And, you know, you and I both were on the Jackets at 12.5 on the preview. But
they only lost by, what, 18 here? I mean, like...
And you and I both said, I mean, you and I did both say on the preview we'd be surprised if Georgia Tech had a chance to win this game. Mm-hmm. But also a little surprised it went like this.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'll give it that. One other thing I wanted to bring up, and I, you know, your mileage may vary on this, Mike, but there were multiple points here in the fourth quarter where Notre Dame had fourth downs up by, 17 points, I think. They faked a punt, and then later they faked
with a reverse,
which really slow developing, like almost kind of couldn't. They almost got blown up multiple times. Play like
amazing design, amazing design.
That was something. You run that 5 times. I'm not sure it works more than once, but it worked today. And then they ran a fake field goal, and I just want, like, you know, I saw stuff of, oh, well, they're just trying to be aggressive. We've talked on this podcast before. There are different ways to be aggressive. And I saw someone else say, well, they've got like a brand new kicker in there. They're probably worried about getting it blocked. If you're that worried about getting the kick blocked, just run your offense.
Right.
Like, there's something to me specifically about faking it multiple times up 3 scores in the fourth quarter that it doesn't sit super great with me. Like, it at some point, it feels like you are going out of your way to try to embarrass the other team. And I didn't particularly love that. But again, your mileage may vary on that. Again, if you don't like it, stop it. But like at the same time,
but
just run your offense.
They do a lot of recruiting in the Atlanta Metroplex. So
yeah, I guess
a lot of recruits there today.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, again, the one thing that I heard about this game was that Notre Dame now, by winning this game, has a 63% chance of making the playoff. So clearly they were trying to make an impression on whatever committee members were watching this. So, you know, maybe...
Which I don't know that they need to do that, though. Like, Army and Navy are still both on the schedule. Now, USC sucks. They lost again today. Lincoln's toast there.
Big yikes, yeah.
Yeah. They lost again today, but like we've said all along, 11-1 Notre Dame is making the playoff. Like they're not going to leave 11-1 Notre Dame out. They're too big of a TV draw. I know that's going to really anger some people because they lost in Northern Illinois, but that's just the way it is.
That's exactly it. It's too big a brand to leave them out if you know, if you have a decent excuse to put them in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something that came up, but you know, it's whatever, but I don't know. I thought that was odd. It did seem like there was some of this, and we talked about this with another Notre Dame game. I think when they played Stanford, there was some passing it for the sake of passing it, and I saw some of that in the fourth quarter too. And I don't know. There's just stuff that was like kind of odd to me from a decisions and game management standpoint from Marcus Freeman. That's like you don't have to play like this, but they chose to.
I don't think they do either, but I think there's a viewpoint out there that people think they need to play like that because they lost to Northern Illinois, which
Yeah.
maybe just don't lose to Northern Illinois. You don't have to like try to run it up on everybody, but that's
Yep.
just whatever. Playoff era. It's fine.
Fair enough. Notre Dame 31, Georgia Tech 13. That recap brought to you by section103.com, the internet's premier place for all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel. They got t-shirts, they got sweatshirts, they got hoodies, just like this one. Mike, it's officially hoodie season. Now that the temperatures have dipped into like the 80s here in Houston, it's been great. Thanks for men, women, children, babies, something for the whole family. Any Georgia Tech fan in your life, they need something from section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. Go support NIL efforts. They've got shirts for Haynes King and Zach Pyron, Eric Singleton. They've got shirts for the basketball team, the volleyball team, the baseball team. Lots of different Tech traditions. All sorts of great things there. Section103.com. Once again, use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order. I've been wearing a Ramblin' Rec shirt all day. Threw on this Coach hoodie. It's pretty sweet. Very soft, very comfortable, very warm. Looks great. If you need something to wear to your games, something to wear around town, whatever it is, section103.com. One more time, use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order.
We love Steven.
Shout out to Steven and the gang.
Yep. Oh, there are a lot less interesting games than this one. So
You could knock out a couple real quick.
all right, you want to go through some quick ones. SMU 40, Stanford 10. You want to talk about that one?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, we can, like, quickly. It's, I mean, this was a bit of a blitzkrieg situation from SMU. I mean,
that's one way to put it. Yeah.
You know, they scored touchdowns on 3 of their first 4 drives. Opening play from their own 13-yard line. That's an 87-yard touchdown. Kevin Jennings, by the way, threw touchdown passes on 3 of their first 13 plays from scrimmage. So yeah, this was over quickly, like flash fry situation.
Stanford had 33 yards rushing, and they were 2 for 15 on third down, which just simply not going to get it done.
No,
Just not gonna get it done.
Had a whole bunch of Elijah Brown for Stanford. That's a name that I was less than familiar with.
Yeah, me too. Truthfully, I would assume Ashton Daniels got hurt here or was banged up. I did not watch this. I'm not even going to pretend. So,
meme enthusiast nails it here.
Well, there are multiple. We got multiple Kobe candidates. We got Elijah Brown's 16 of 32 for 153-yard performance. We have the 35 carries for 33 yards as a team. So some volume shooting in there for sure. Yeah.
Individual award, Micah Ford, 13 for 31.
His longest run was 15 yards, so it was really 12 for 16.
Yeah, not going to get it done.
Oh, man. Stanford's bad, man.
Yeah.
They're bad.
Yeah. Stanford, and again, I think they've got a couple pieces here, and I think that they are slowly improving, but, you know, if you don't have a healthy starting quarterback and all that, I mean, Stanford doesn't have much. They're not going to be able to compete in this conference, at least this year, if they can't get healthy. And, you know, they're still building towards next year and maybe even the year after that.
I think the most notable development in this game is Elikai Manor, their star receiver, caught his first touchdown since the opener.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Is that true?
He's
He's
touchdowns
nasty.
versus Syracuse.
Oh, never mind. You know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of somebody different. Never mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's like their best.
Never mind. I'm thinking of
right.
Ted McMillan from Arizona.
Okay. There you go.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
Wrong
Yeah,
Pac-12 school, because that's what Stanford is. They're a Pac-12 school,
Right.
the ACC. Wrong Pac-12 school.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyways. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot here. SMU, really pretty good. Stanford, not good.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to something different.
SMU 40.
Want to
Stanford 10.
talk about the Virginia Tech game on Thursday night?
Let's do it. Do you feel like any of this
Virginia
was
Tech a lot? Go ahead.
Do you feel like any of this was just like a game script situation that, I mean, the Hokies got out to a pretty big lead and put Boston College in a situation having to throw it and try to come back that they're just not really all that equipped for?
Yes. It went kind of how I thought. Like, I thought if Virginia Tech jumped out to a lead and then BC had to throw, they'd be in trouble. That's pretty much exactly what happened. I can understand, and watching it in real time, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Virginia Tech's giving up 21 third quarter points. This is nuts. This game was 28-0 at halftime. Virginia Tech had 3 turnovers. 2 of them were on first down runs. Like, they ran for a first down, not the play happened on first down. They ran for a first down, right? And then you had a Bayshall Tootin fumble. You had a Kyron Drones fumble on a 4th down play in the first half, where he broke off like a 12 or 13-yard run. You literally gift them. You gift Boston College 14 points in the third quarter just by giving them short fields. Like,
so you had two touchdowns on drives that combined for 47 yards.
Yeah. Like, you play against any team that has some degree of competency, and you're going to be put in a rough situation there. We saw it. Saw it today in the Tennessee-Alabama game, too. That was notable in that game.
Saw it in the Georgia game, honestly.
Saw it in the Georgia game. So, I mean, that kind of stuff can't happen, right? And Virginia Tech gives up 21 third quarter points, and that was really bad. Kyron Drones threw a horrendous interception. Definite Go ACC moment of the week candidate. I have watched that replay a million times since Thursday night, and I still have no idea what he was doing. He had Gosnell in the flat, and he could have been aiming at him, but he overthrew him. He could have been trying to throw it away. He chose the wrong thing. Like, he threw it. He hit the defender right in the numbers. Really dumb. Outside of that, I mean, down-to-down basis, this was a really dominant performance by Virginia Tech. Boston College did not have the juice up front defensively at all. A unit that ranked 25th in the country coming in against the run. But then you looked at the schedule. We played the schedule game on the preview. And it was like, they haven't played a real team yet in terms of like, they played Mizzou, obviously. Mizzou's fine. They're a decent team. But they can't run the ball. And I was like, all right, well, Virginia Tech's probably the best rushing attack that BC has played. And that obviously played out that way. But yeah, I mean, they had no answers for Bayshall Tootin, and they had no answers for Virginia Tech's pass rush. And I thought Boston College, they did pick up some yards in this game for sure. It was a lot of bend but don't break, and that's kind of been Virginia Tech's MO all year. It's been the bend but don't break stuff. And I thought outside of when their backs were kind of against the wall in the third quarter and they were put in a couple of really bad situations, I thought the defense actually played pretty well in this game outside of the couple of short fields. So, yes, I do. Long answer, yes. I do think it was a game script situation. Virginia Tech, obviously, huge lead, 28-0 at halftime. Couple of weird turnovers in the third quarter. And then your defense does, they don't get the stops with the short fields. Couldn't even hold to field goals. So that's kind of tough. But then, the play of the game was when BC had the ball back. It was 28-21, and they were around midfield, and Virginia Tech gets a stop on 4th down. They score 3 plays later. And that was that went well for Virginia Tech. That's where the game kind of turned back. So I don't think Boston College. I thought Boston College was competitive for about a 6 to 7 minute period here, because there were a couple punts there in the third quarter. I thought they were competitive for a minute, but this was Virginia Tech stopping Virginia Tech in the third quarter, in my opinion. I thought Tech played a pretty good game here overall.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the first half, it was entirely Virginia Tech. Boston College had the ball, 6 times, and only one of them did they really make some decent hay in terms of moving it, and that was a 12-play, 69-yard drive. They got down into the inside the 10 and then fumble. Other than that, it was a bunch of 3-and-outs, a bunch of short field, or a bunch of pretty quick punts, and it was all Hokies. You come out of halftime. They had a really good drive. Hokies go 6 plays and punt. And then it was pretty quickly a really good drive from Boston College, 6 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. And then after that, you mentioned, I mean, again, 2 short field stuff because of, turnover nonsense from Virginia Tech. But it was a weird game because it felt like it was entirely all just Virginia Tech here until they found a way to let Boston College back into the game. And so for a game that was 28-0 at halftime, and I felt like there was no threat, I don't really know how we get, to the end of the third quarter and all of a sudden Boston College is driving to tie the game, but we got there.
Right.
And then shortly into the fourth quarter, they stall out on turnover on downs, and then it was Hokies touchdown, end of game from there. So, strange game to watch and a strange score to look at. You see there was only one team that scored in each quarter, and it was 14 for the Hokies, 14 for the Hokies, 21 for Boston College, and then 14 for the Hokies again. So, just, again, weird game, but that's what happens when you just start turning it over willy-nilly and allow Boston College quickly to get back into it. Bayshell Tootin, really good. I did think that Boston College's defense had a number of moments of just like over pursuing stuff. Where Tootin just found the right moment to cut it upfield, and it was just daylight. There was just nobody there. So I think a little bit of undisciplined play at times from the back 7 or so of Boston College's defenses.
Yeah, just way too many situations where Tootin just broke through into the second level of defense and there was nobody home. Not even like somebody missed a tackle. There was just like nobody there. It's like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
So a lot of that going on.
Yep. So Hokies yet again have Boston College's number. That's a couple years in a row that it's, again, this got close, but I don't really know how truly competitive it was.
I'm not very impressed with BC lately, like the last month or so. It's kind of turned into what I think we thought going into the year was going to be for Boston College. They've really they've regressed a little bit mid-year, and I don't think it's a coaching thing. I think O'Brien's doing what he can, but this is like this is starting to round into like a year one situation.
Yeah.
For him, I think. So,
I mean, at this point, the high point was the win over Florida State. You had the easy win over Duquesne. You blew the lead at Missouri. You had a close win kind of last minute at Michigan or against Michigan State in the red bandana game. You had a 1-point comeback win over Western Kentucky. And now you've lost to Virginia. You've lost to Virginia Tech. So you're 4-3. You need 2 more: Louisville, Syracuse, at SMU, North Carolina, and Pitt.
Yeah.
And there's a chance, but I don't know. They might have to steal one to get bowl eligible. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Agree.
So Virginia Tech 42, Boston College 21.
Duke 23, Florida State 16. We'll keep it in the weeknight slate, Joey. Man. This was not an easy watch. I tweeted out at one point, did you realize that Florida State had the ball 5 times in the first quarter? Which that's a lot of, like, Georgia Tech and Notre Dame both had the ball 4 times in the first half. Florida State had the ball 5 times in the first quarter. Yeah.
You had a drive that kind of stalled out, got a field goal, 3 and out, missed a field goal, threw a pick 6, and then fumbled. Like, hell of a start for the Noles here.
Yeah, they were. This is another one of those game script situations where, like, if you're Florida State, with the way you're playing offense right now,
field goal.
Yeah, it was blocked. Yeah, with the way Florida State's playing offense right now, things have to go kind of perfectly, or things have to stay. Maybe a better way to say it is like things have to stay on schedule. And with Florida State in this game, things didn't stay on schedule at all. I mean, you have 3 consecutive offensive plays where you turn the ball over. So that's just simply not winning football. And then on top of that, the passing game just in general with Brock Glenn, we said on the preview we think that they're in a better situation at quarterback with Brock Glenn than DJU. I'm not positive though. Like I think that's the case, but I watched that game Friday night and I was like, man, I don't think so. And it's again, small sample size and it's a low bar to clear. But this Florida State passing game is really broken. They're short on playmakers. Obviously, the quarterback to deliver them the ball has been an issue all year. But they also just haven't run the ball that great.
You know who else isn't sure if Brock Glenn is the solution?
That would be Mike Norvell.
Mike Norvell, who put in Luke Croman Hook, something. I don't know how to pronounce that. Put the backup in, which is effectively the third stringer, who came in and, did his best and got some exercise and some fresh air.
Got some exercise. They had a combined QBR, Florida State's quarterbacks combined QBR of 30.1 on Friday night. Joey, that's really bad.
I think I've mentioned this before. Anytime I sit here and I watch this Florida State offense, I come back to the fundamental question: what do you do in practice?
Yeah.
Because it's not very clear to me what they're doing. Like it's and just to be super clear, and we've mentioned this before, but I just want to reiterate. Brock Glenn, you look at the stat sheet, 9 of 19 for 110 yards, 2 picks. So he had more incompletions than completions. We do realize that there were like 4 or 5 passes that he threw that hit receivers in the hands that they just dropped. Their receivers suck. Their quarterbacks kind of suck.
They're really bad.
The offensive line's not that good. Like this is the whole thing. It's not just the quarterback. The whole offensive unit is terrible. And this is where I start. Is it just really like we acted like Florida State and this coaching staff were geniuses because for 2 years they were able to figure out good evaluations in the transfer portal, and now all of a sudden all that good luck that they had, it all comes crashing down, and you just missed on every single evaluation coming into this year? Like, I don't know how to make sense of it, that this team has been this bad, but yeah, clearly something is just totally rotten here, and I got nothing for you.
Yeah. Duke is terrible, by the way. I don't mean to I'm not trying to throw water on their 6-1 start. And I think Manny Diaz has done an outstanding job. But this team is just not very good, and it's a testament to Manny Diaz, the coach, who I thought was good at Miami, by the way. Thought he was good at Miami. So this is not a very good Duke team. I mean, Malik Murphy was 12 of 24 for 70 yards in this game, and he was the best quarterback on the field by a country mile. He was the best quarterback on the field. He was not good on Friday night. He was not good.
And meme enthusiast, Kobe.
Yeah. I mean, they just continued to give the ball to Star Thomas time and time again. And look, Florida State's defensive line is probably the best part of their entire team, and they've underwhelmed this year by far. But he had 21 carries for 88 yards, and they just kept giving him the ball over and over and over because they're afraid to throw it. Like, Duke cannot throw it.
Yeah, no, they can't.
So, and this is an indictment of Florida State, by the way. All that to say. This wasn't to just shit on Duke. This is an indictment of Florida State, that you can't score against this defense, which is a fine defense. But they do not have the athletes. And I think what's even more damning if you're Florida State is you don't have the dudes to beat a Duke defense. You don't have the dudes. It's not even like a coaching thing. That's part of it, naturally. But I don't think Florida State's got the athletes at receiver, which was your point, to beat a Duke defense, which tells you everything you need to know about this Florida State team. Florida State's 1-6 now. They're 1-5 in the ACC. They are not making a bowl game, obviously. I don't know if they're winning more than 2 games. They should beat Charleston Southern. but it's like a non-zero chance that they don't look very good in that game either, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we laugh because Charleston Southern is ass, and we laugh, but like they're probably not beating Charleston Southern by 40 points. This is bad, man.
It's
like,
awful.
The upcoming schedule: at Miami, home against North Carolina; at Notre Dame, home against Charleston Southern; home against Florida. I think the only game they win is Charleston Southern. I think they're losing the rest.
That is completely on the table, and it would not surprise me at this point. Florida State -4 in turnovers here. These two teams combined, they combined 5 for 31 on third downs. This was not an easy watch by any means.
No, it was a good weeknight game.
Yeah, the one piece of credit I will give to Florida State here, once again, that defense does not quit. They keep showing effort and playing and doing their best. And I mean, they only gave up 16 points to Duke here because don't forget, Brock Glenn did throw in a pick 6 early in this game to get Duke on the board. And a game you lost by 7, you gave up a defensive score. And lo and behold, there's the difference in the game. So, I mean, again, I don't know how much more we can say about Florida State at this point. It's kind of all been said.
Yeah, and by the way, year one, unequivocal success for Duke. I don't want that to go. All this stuff I just said about how bad they are, I don't want that to go unnoticed. Unequivocal success. Like, get them to a bowl game. Everything you replaced, quarterback, running back. You lost your star running back to NC State. All that stuff. Coordinator changes, obviously, with the staff changes. All that stuff. To be able to get this team to a bowl game in year one in Durham, absolute success. They are well coached. Mm-hmm. They are well coached. I just don't think they're very good, but they do not beat themselves. They are very well coached. They are not very good, but we weren't expecting them to be. But the fact that they're going to go to a bowl game says everything you need to know about Manny Diaz. He can coach. He's a ball coach.
The only weird thing to me in this game about Duke's offense in particular is that it really seems like they don't even like attempt to use Malik Murphy's legs in the run game.
Yeah, I know. And
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's just like trying to keep him healthy, keep him out of harm's way kind of stuff, maybe. But it seems like it's a potential missed opportunity because he's pretty athletic. Like he can run, he can add something to your offense if you let him run. But they haven't really done it. So, for what that's worth. Anyways, my question for you, Mike, last thing, and then we can move on. Duke has games remaining at NC State, at Wake Forest. Will they be favored in either of those games?
Well, they got more than that, don't they? Are you just talking about those two in particular?
Well, they've also got SMU at Miami and home against Virginia Tech. They're not going to be favored in any of those. So I'm asking about those two games in particular. At NC State, at Wake Forest, are they favored in either one?
It's probably a coin flip for both, right?
I think they're favored at Wake Forest. I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they'll be favored in Raleigh. So, but either way, to your point, I mean, they have gotten to bowl eligibility, which is more than I thought that Manny Diaz would do in year one. And all the credit to them. I mean, that's they find ways to not lose games, it seems like, which is a skill that I don't know that a lot of teams have, honestly. Like
I was gonna say, a good trait to have in this conference is to have a team that does not beat themselves. You're going to win a lot of games that way in this league, without a doubt.
Completely. Duke 23, Florida State 16.
Clemson 48, UVA 31. Joey, I mean, we covered this in the Rapid React, but outside of there it is. There's the banner. Outside of that gifted touchdown to UVA early in this one, not really too competitive a game. I thought Clemson showed pretty well here once again offensively. You avoid that early turnover, and you're looking at a game that's not really that competitive from the start. So a little slow going for Clemson offensively early. I had a thought here. I'm curious to hear what you think. You play like so many games in a row as a gigantic favorite. Like they've been at least a 21-point favorite in like 3 out of their last 4 games, I think. The one that they weren't was Florida State, and they were still, whatever it was, 16 and a half, whatever that closed at. You get to a point where you got to just be like, all right, we're rolling the helmets out again. We're a 3-score favorite again. You're going to start slow in a couple of these, right? And I think the difference for me with this year's Clemson team versus years past is like they've been maybe not necessarily a 3-score favorite multiple times, but they've been like a couple touchdown favorite where I've been like, all right, they can roll the helmets out and probably be fine here. And they've really struggled to get separation. I think the difference with this year's team, which is why I kind of put them in that, they're not as good as the 2020 team, but it's a similar conversation where like you knew that if they got into a matchup like this, they were going to win by a ton. The difference between this year and the last few years is that when they get into this scenario and they start slow, they're just like, all right, guys, like they get in the huddle at the end of the first quarter, like, all right, guys, like let's hit the gas now. And then they just do. Like they hit the gas and that's it. And that's a credit to their improvement offensively this season. UVA just could not move it here at all. And they really, we talked about Virginia's struggles running the football, and that really ended up materializing here. They couldn't really get much going at all. Kobe Pace was their leading rusher. He had 10 carries for 35 yards. As a team, Virginia, 29 carries, 68 yards. So just not very good in that regard. And then Anthony Calandria, he did what he could. It was a lot of short passes and just not a whole lot going there. But yeah, Clemson pretty much got whatever they want here, running the football, passing the football. Yeah, I mean, a pretty ho-hum win. They were just a lot better. And I'm wondering now, because Clemson's got Louisville up next after a bye week, you're coming into a part of your schedule where you're going to start playing teams that are a bit better than what you've seen over the last 4 weeks.
More of a pulse.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the next 2 teams are better than anybody Clemson has faced since Georgia. They get Louisville and Virginia Tech.
Mike, there is a non-zero chance that Clemson has 6 wins right now. They're 6-1. They might not have a win over anyone who's going to a bowl game. App State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia. There might not be a single bowl team in that whole group.
NC State got a big one today they needed, but their schedule coming down this... Well, okay, I'm looking at it now. NC State could make a bowl game, but the rest of the teams, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
I was going to mention here, I mean, I thought there was an interesting sequence here early in this game. I mean, Virginia has a long drive, 14 plays, 80 yards, the second possession of the game. They go down late in the first quarter, and 4th and 2 at the 3-yard line, and they kick a field goal to tie it. And then pretty quickly, Clemson throws an interception, and Virginia now runs a 6-play, 34-yard drive. They score a touchdown to go up 10-3. And I think about that field goal that was kicked inside the 5, and wonder, you kind of had a chance to really kind of nail Clemson down and put them up against the wall. Because, by the way, you scored that touchdown, make it 10-3 Virginia. From there, the next time you scored, you made it 38-17. Like Clemson,
it was with your backups.
Clemson ripped up 31 straight points basically. Before you had 35 straight points before you had a chance to get back on the board. And so I don't know, from a momentum standpoint, and I mean, did you really have a chance to win the game? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't know, just one of those things that if you're a big underdog on the road, and I wonder if Tony Elliott wishes he could have that one back and go for it and maybe try to get in the end zone that way. I don't know. Maybe it changes things.
Clemson has Louisville up next after a bye next week. Then they travel to Blacksburg to play Virginia Tech. Then they travel to Pittsburgh. Home against the Citadel. home against a little bit of a feisty South Carolina team.
Mm-hmm.
A little feisty Gamecocks.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, this is the toughest part of their schedule. Georgia
Yeah,
game in the
yeah.
opener, obviously notwithstanding. Does Clemson go unblemished here? Do they finish the year undefeated?
I'm going to say they find a way to lose.
I'm sorry.
one.
Well, undefeated in ACC play, I guess, is more of what I'm getting at. They obviously lost to Georgia in the opener. You think they lose one more?
I think they lose one more. I think.
Yeah.
But it's I think they finish either 11-1 or 10-2. I don't know which one they drop, and it's not really about there's one matchup out there that really sticks out. It's more just do you come out and you're just not quite ready to play against a team that finds a way to score a bunch of points. You got road games in Blacksburg and Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks, like
Yeah.
maybe, but
The Virginia Tech game's interesting to me, not because I'm an alum, but you're coming off of a Louisville game where I think Louisville has obviously shown the ability to push some pretty good teams, right? Louisville, they spotted Notre Dame some points early in that game, then clawed their way back into it. Spotted obviously Miami some points, clawed their way back into it. Back and forth game. Louisville has proven their game against some of these better teams on their schedule, and I think they're probably going to be game against Clemson in 2 weeks. And then you come right off of that, and you have to go to Blacksburg in a pretty tough environment, and then to Pittsburgh right after that. It's an interesting 3-game stretch. I could see them potentially dropping one, but this team is pretty good, and I feel like if they give these games their full attention, they should be fine. I just think they have more talent. I think the offense is on a different level this year than what they're going to be seeing out of these teams the next 3 weeks.
yeah.
So, and the South Carolina game, I know that South Carolina beat them in Death Valley a couple of years back, but Clemson's going to take that game seriously. Especially with the playoff implications. And I think Clemson wants to give themselves some breathing room, too. If they get into an ACC title game against a team like Miami and they lose that game, they still want to have an opportunity to make the playoff. And I don't think that you make the playoff with 3 losses, obviously. I think you've got to have 2, including the ACC title game, if you want to make the playoff.
I was going to say, I think 11-2 ACC runner-up Clemson is in the playoff, I think.
Based on what we've seen, right? I mean, based on what
Yeah.
we've seen so far, I'd be surprised if they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, the strength of schedule has not been outstanding, but the teams that they've played, other than Georgia, they've ripped them limb from limb. And I do think this is a different Clemson team than the one we saw week 1 against Georgia. So, you know, if they played a rematch at the end of the year, I don't think that's a 34-3 game. I mean, again, I think you saw in the first half that was what, like 6-0 or something. I mean, it was like really close, and then it just completely got away from them in the second half. So, last thing, and something that you just mentioned, I just want to kind of reiterate: this is year 2 for Garrett Riley and for Cade Klubnik. And that's something I've been thinking about recently. Is it does seem like there is something to year 2 of a new offensive coordinator with the quarterback pairing, that the first year can be a little bit wonky, and we've seen this at a number of different schools across the country. But you get into year 2, and it seems like that's when things really start to click. So that's just something that's been on my mind. So I've noticed that, and I think that's worth noting for this Clemson team.
Year three with Klubnik and Riley. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but
Biblical.
we could be on the verge of another like really, really good Clemson potentially a year from now. So let's keep an eye on that. We'll see how things progress. Did you learn? We spent a lot of time on this game. We got a couple left. Did you learn anything about Virginia today? I did not really. I think this is. I'm still relatively high on them. I think they can make a bowl game. I don't feel like I feel any worse about Virginia coming out of this game.
Tony Elliott and Tony Muskett are extremely disrespectful of the spread. I learned.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
Virginia
For
scores
some picks we had.
14 points in the final 3 minutes of this game. And that includes Clemson scored again in the middle there, but yeah, I mean, I guess give Virginia credit for not quitting. But I'm definitely a little bit pissed that I locked up Clemson minus 21.5 and Virginia just wasn't going to go away quietly. Just go away quietly. Let me have my win.
Yeah.
But
do you want to address this commenter?
Let's see. No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
Moving on. Clemson 48, Virginia 31.
Oh.
He's like 30 minutes late on this comment anyways. I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, he's on the spectrum. Wake Forest 23, UConn 20. I don't have a lot here because I did not watch this. I was curious what the follow-up comment. I did not. I was curious what the follow-up comment would be from him, so I'm a little
guess we'll never know.
Guess we'll never know.
I mean, impressed by Wake Forest here. Again, going on the road and against I think what has been a salty, feisty UConn team, finding a way to get it done. And I don't have a whole lot of insights here. This is Wake needed this badly, and this is something
it really did.
Like, again, this gets them to 3-4. You got to win 3 of your final 5. I think the wins are there if you can pull it together, but obviously it had to start here. And again, on the road against a decent UConn team, you held them to 20 points in their own building. Credit to the Deeks. Glad they got this done.
And credit to that. So we've given the Wake Forest defense a bunch of criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've given them hell because they've given up a lot of points and yards this year. 40 rushing yards allowed in this game.
Yeah.
Really
Really
good.
good.
And this is not like an elite rushing team by any stretch. UConn's rushing game not very good. But you only gave up 40 yards here, right, which is really good. You made UConn one-dimensional, and in a game like this where there's a small margin and you're on the road, that kind of stuff's important. So just want to mention that. UConn 5 of 15 on third down. Wake Forest not much better, 6 of 16, but Wake Forest just made more plays in the passing game, and they were just more balanced offensively in total. So
able to run the ball a little bit.
Yeah. Taylor Marin, great. I mean, huge game. 6 for 104. That'll play.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, credit to the Deeks. I don't have a whole lot here, but good on them getting this win. Not easy, but had to have it, and you got it, and got a chance to get to bowl eligibility. It's still on the table.
Moving on. The final game. Right?
Where's the band?
Final game.
Yep.
There it is. NC State 24, Cal 23. This was one of the more interesting games of the day, so of course we left it for last. So I had this on a third screen, right? And I'm keeping an eye on this.
You the floor here, Mike. I'm curious to hear your take on how this whole game played out. I know we've got one NC State listener who in particular is very interested to hear how this goes.
Yeah. So I saw a thank you for giving me the floor, by the way. Thanks for giving me the floor. I appreciate it. There was a tweet that I saw during this game asking if Robert Anae was trying to get himself fired. And it was from one James Curley, who, as you will all remember, was in my mentions when NC State was mounting their stunning comeback in the opener against Western Carolina. Good on them. Good on you, Wolfpack. He did something similar this afternoon, Joey, because I saw him questioning Robert Anae's offensive coordinating ability, which is something that you and I couldn't have possibly predicted when we were criticizing Robert Anae in the opener against Western Carolina. Who could have possibly seen that coming? But we mentioned then that NC State might have some offensive issues, like stuff that's beyond week one stuff. Like they might have some like actual issues. Like they don't have any playmakers outside of Casey Concepcion. We mentioned all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found it curious that James Curley, friend of the show, shout out James. I don't want to give him I'm not trying to give him too much help because he is a listener.
Huge NC State fan.
Huge, unapologetic NC State fan, which I do appreciate. I want to make that clear because he is going to listen to this. He does listen to this podcast, and I thank him for listening. So I'm trying not to give him too much hell. But I tweeted at him, messing with him. I was like, "Hey, haven't heard from you much since week one. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing." Essentially, he didn't respond for a while, and then that was when Cal was up a couple scores. NC State mounts their comeback, and just like against Western Carolina, that's when he was back in the mentions saying, "Oh, I can't wait to listen to what you have to say on the recap." I will give NC State their flowers, Joey. You mentioned this in the Rapid React. We have to give them their flowers. They mounted a very good comeback here in the fourth quarter. This is bad for Cal. Okay? This is bad for Cal. You're a 10-point favorite. You're playing at home. You've lost 3 really tough, close conference games so far this year by 8 total points. And you have NC State down 2 scores in your building, and you can't find a way to pull this game out. Again, this was on a second screen for me, and I keep looking over, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Here comes NC State. Yeah. Cal was really, really struggling in the fourth quarter. Like they were having some issues here. Cal scored their final touchdown with 24 seconds to play in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They went punt, missed field goal, which we highlighted in the Rapid React, and a turnover on downs. After holding the NC State offense down for the majority of this game, they gave up 2 straight touchdowns in the fourth quarter, obviously flipping the script on that lead that Cal had. This is a really, really tough look for Cal in a game that NC State absolutely had to have. Mm-hmm. Absolutely had to have. NC State's got Stanford, Duke, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina remaining. NC State, I think, like gun to my head right now, I would think they're going to win after this bye week. I think they're probably going to win the next 2 and make a bowl game. Like I think they can beat Stanford. Duke's a toss-up, but I think if you play like you did for at least parts of the first half and then the fourth quarter,
almost a half of this game.
Almost a half of this game, you can probably beat Duke.
Yeah. And
Carolina's a toss-up at the end of the year. I don't think you're beating Georgia Tech, especially not on the road. I think NC State, this is going to go a long way towards bowl eligibility. I think they can split the final 4 games. So that's my takeaway on the NC State side. They're going to make a bowl game, I think.
This is a major swing game for them to make a bowl game, and I'm with you. I think winning this game, I think you're going bowling at this point.
Yeah. No Jordan Waters today for NC State too, and they really struggled without him to move it in the running game, but they found a way.
Yeah, NC State to be very clear, did not have a good time running the ball here.
No.
I mean, including sacks and such, and CJ Bailey was sacked 6 times in this game. So not sack adjusted, but 30 carries, 29 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe. Yeah, not great. So NC State struggled to move the ball for large portions of this game. There were certain drives like they could get it moving and were able to move the ball and give themselves chances. But there were a lot of 3 and outs here, and we talked about it. Some of that's NC State's offense. Some of that's Cal's defense is really good. It has been really good.
Yep.
I think some of my takeaway from this game is, man, Justin Wilcox has a way of coaching like a defensive coordinator, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's been a criticism of his. I mean, you and I are obviously very in tune with the ACC, But you and I watch, obviously, a lot of college football outside of the ACC. And one of the things about Justin Wilcox and one of the criticisms of him is that he's been essentially allergic to offense for the better part of his near decade tenure at Cal. And they've tried to reverse that trend over the last few years. And one of your favorite sayings, mileage may vary. Like, they try. Sometimes it looks really good. Sometimes it doesn't. But, man, he really does coach like a defensive coordinator.
Yeah. I mean, for as bad as the kicking game has been, they had a lot of field goal attempts here. They did not want to go for it on fourth down.
Nope.
They, including inside the 10-yard line, like you have chances to score touchdowns instead of field goals, and you didn't. And, oh, look, you lost by 1. And
a professional at taking the points.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a thing that kind of stuck out to me here as well. Cal's offense, again, it's very like fits and starts, right? Like,
yeah,
they're not very consistent, but they have ways of finding chunk plays on like a somewhat consistent basis. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of Cal's offense. I definitely think that they are struggling heavily without Jade Knott available to them. And I don't think he really played in this game at all.
Did not play today.
He has been far from healthy this whole season. And that's your best player. That's one of the best skill players in the ACC when he's right. And he hasn't been right all year. And I think that's a big piece of where they're struggling on offense. So, again, not a ton here. Cal just, man, good grief. It sucks that you're 0-4 in ACC play by an average of 2.25 points per loss.
Yeah.
Like, that is just really hard to stomach again. And I've said that every week. Like, it is really hard to swallow this loss again. Like, I hate it for him. I definitely wonder when you start looking at Justin Wilcox and saying, like, what's going on here? And
no, I know.
I don't know that it's like firing time, but I wonder if there's any changes to the coaching staff or anything else that you do after this season as a result.
Something's got to be different. So you mentioned no Jaden Ott. Javion Thomas, he had the 49-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. Outside of that, NC State defensively really just bottled Cal up here in the running game, especially. Cal just really didn't have much to offer there. They really tightened the thing up after that early Javion Thomas touchdown. So I think I give a lot of credit to NC State's defense, which, as much crap as we've given NC State about their offense, their defense has played well this year. They've I think, for the most part, they've steadily improved.
It's improved,
and the offense has been the issue. Yeah, the defense has improved. So,
Justin Wilcox, this is year 8?
8 or 9, right? 8?
In the first 7 years, they've been to 3 bowl games. And there's a non-zero chance we don't make a bowl game this year. And it's at some point I wonder, do you do something about that? And there's another point to me that wonders, is Cal really interested in doing something about that? Like,
what's the expectation at Cal? I think the expectation, you and I have had this conversation off air before. I think the expectation at most FBS programs should reasonably be, we can make a bowl game.
Yeah.
I disagree.
3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 years, something like that.
There are national people I will not name that disagree with us there. I disagree with them. I think it's a reasonable expectation at most of the 133 so odd schools in the FBS. I think there should be an expectation out of every 5 years to make a bowl game twice. I don't think that's that crazy.
At least,
you should be able to do that, right? Which I'm using that example because that's basically where Cal's at, right? If you do a 10-year Wilcox tenure, like 4 or 5 bowl games is probably where he's going to be at. I think that's reasonable. It's reasonable to expect that.
I think so. And with a lot of programs, I would think, make a bowl game basically every year, and then every 3 to 5 years, you have a year where everything kind of comes together. You have a bunch of seniors and you found a good quarterback and whatever. And now we're, having a 9-win season and going to a good bowl game, or like,
Right.
Making a threat for the playoff or, something like once every so often you can do that, so that's, again, I don't know if that's exactly where Cal would fall, but I agree. Like, I think it's reasonable with Cal and their history as a program and such. Like, you can make bowl games there, and you should be expected to.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
But all a question of institutional priority. So, anyways, NC State 24, Cal 23. Mike, anything else before we work on awards?
No, I think we're good.
Is there a sound? Or like...
Oh, okay. Wait, there is one more game. You're right.
Bowling Green 27, Kent State 6. Told you. Kent State's
baby.
terrible. They're so bad.
They're so bad. They're awful. They're horrible. Yeah.
Real bad. It was 20-6 at halftime.
The real question here is for somebody who's holding an over 6.5 win total ticket and needs to win 4 out of the final 5 games. Can we do it? Ready?
I mean, you've won 4 out of 5 times at the roulette wheel before, right? Because that feels like what we're doing here.
Ready?
Hit me.
Toledo. They're pretty bad.
Win.
Toledo won today, by the way. They beat Northern Illinois. Just
Oh, God.
mentioning that for Notre Dame purposes. Northern Illinois might not make a bowl game. That would be pretty bad for Notre Dame, I feel like.
That is
11 and that's anyway.
That would be something.
Anyway, yeah, the MAC. I cannot wait to start watching the MAC on Tuesdays here in about a week and a half. Central Michigan.
Win.
Okay. Western.
Win.
All right, I need one more. Ball State.
Oh, that's definitely a win. They're going to beat Ball State.
We're there.
Ball
We're
State's
home,
awful.
baby. We're home. Miami, Ohio in the finale. Probably not. You're probably not beating Miami, Ohio in the finale.
I think you should go ahead and cash that ticket like it's already come in. I think it's done.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I
3.
can say, there's
3 and 4 Bowling Green is definitely getting to 7 wins.
the max standings, by the way, are an absolute disaster. If, by the way, if any of you are new here and you're wondering why we're talking about Bowling Green, maybe I'll give you like a quick 10-second background.
Yeah.
Brian Van Gorder, former ACC coordinator, and more importantly, Scott Loeffler, a former Virginia Tech offensive coordinator, is the head coach at Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them have coached there at one time or another. So that's why we talk about Bowling Green. It's been a running joke for like 6 years.
Scott Loeffler, the guy who was a bad offensive coordinator at Boston College, then somehow got the offensive coordinator job at Virginia Tech, then somehow got the head coaching job at Boston College, just failing his way up through the coaching ranks. And so we at the ACC here celebrate our guy Scott Loeffler getting the head coaching job at Bowling Green.
Yep.
Somehow still there, as you said,
Oh,
6 years later.
Yep.
So
that's why we talked about Bowling Green.
Gonna do some awards.
Run it.
The Go ACC Moment of the Week. Had a couple of extra conferential submissions here, Mike.
Well, yeah, I got a couple. The first is the Oregon Duck running out at Purdue in West Lafayette on Friday night and tripping and falling and his head popping off, revealing the human underneath the mascot and then reaching for the hat to put it back on afterwards. Very funny. The second one is if you were watching the Oklahoma-South Carolina game, you're an Oklahoma fan, this is probably the only thing you could laugh about all day. The Sooner Schooner, that little horse and buggy ride that looks like something straight out of Oregon Trail, it toppled over when they were doing their whole like run out thing today. They made a turn and people were like falling out of the cart. Very funny. So 2 Go ACC moments of the week, just trying to run out the tunnel was a challenge for a Big Ten school and an SEC school. So,
By the way, word to the wise, if you are ever watching an Oklahoma game and you see the pregame situation and the Sooner Schooner comes out and the wagon topples over, you should immediately be live betting against Oklahoma, because that is always a bad omen. Bad things happen when the Sooner Schooner tips over.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did today. So
Yeah.
go see to that. Anything else from inside the conference? Obviously, the Kyron Drones interception was just the biggest.
Yeah, that's
what on
bad.
God's green earth are we doing here moment.
yeah. There's a couple more, but I think the You Tried Award might be better suited for that.
The Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award this week.
Georgia Tech's kicking game, definitely up there.
The whole special teams unit.
Yeah.
Producing, defending, the whole thing. Again.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Really,
Not
really
good.
bad. There's
Not
also just various rushing attacks just really struggling.
Yeah.
Cal,
Cal
UVA.
couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech couldn't run the
Virginia,
ball.
Georgia Tech.
Tough scene.
Yeah.
Cal trying to hold on to a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. They tried.
The worst
It was
one was
actually
actually
NC
Stanford's rushing
State's-
attack, too.
Yeah, NC State's rushing attack. Yeah. So, yeah. You guys tried. Everybody tried. They tried really hard, and we'll try again next week.
For sure.
This is Kobe
Volume
Bryant
shooter of the
Memorial
week?
Volume Shooter of the Week. Go to Malik Murphy's 12 of 24 for 70 yards in the air.
Yeah, that's probably the winner, but Stanford's rushing attack, 35 for 33 yards.
My goodness. What are we doing? What do we do in practice? It's crazy. Ridiculous. Kobe. Do we have any unsanctioned awards this week, Mike?
Oh, the You Died Award? Yeah.
Just ask. I mean, you know.
Yeah, Stanford. I mean, Stanford. And to a lesser degree, I guess, Florida State, just because I know you only lost by a touchdown, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. Which, depending on which podcast you're listening to, they were recommending pregame that you bet Florida State on the, like, come on, principal. Florida State has never lost to Duke. Why did we not bet on Florida State here to cover as an underdog? And they didn't.
I picked Florida State.
Yikes.
So, yikes. Yikes is right. Player of the week. It's pretty
Player
easy
of
for
the
me.
week.
Easy one for
Cam
me.
Ward.
Well, yeah, Cam Ward. Bashal Tootin.
Bashal
Said
Tootin.
it.
Also that. Yeah.
And Antoine Powell-Ryland, if we want to go on the defense side of the ball. Yeah, two for in the Virginia Tech game.
Both of them outstanding.
Setting school records. So I think just out of principle, I got to give those two a nod.
I'm pretty close to retiring Cam Ward from this award. Like we can't just give it to him every week, but we
could if we needed to.
Nasty, surgical, the whole thing for Miami today against Louisville.
Agree. Really, really good.
Yep. Team of the week, Duke. First ever win over Florida State. NC State getting on the board in conference play. Comeback win.
Miami. Toughest game of the week, probably on paper, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I think NC State's a good candidate just because, I mean, they were 10-point dogs at Cal. And fourth quarter comeback and everything. Cal is probably that's to go on the road like that and beat Cal as a 10-point dog.
All the way across the country. Yep.
It's probably the one.
Yep. Yeah. Shout out to the Wolfpack. All right. I think that's all I got, Mike. Anything else?
On to week 9, which we got a banger on Thursday night.
Oh, no. What did I miss?
Syracuse Pitt.
Oh, let's go. Both teams on a bye this week. We're meeting at Acrisure Stadium in the big ketchup bottle known as Acrisure Stadium. That'll be fun. We got Friday, Louisville at Boston College. I'm liking this weeknight action here, Mike. This is good for my soul. This is what I need. And
This is
honestly, it
good.
kind of helps
We're getting closer.
helps me to watch more games as I got stuff going on Saturdays.
Right, agreed. We're getting closer and closer to the group of 5, though. You know, like we're getting closer and closer to Maction.
Looking forward to those
So.
Tuesday night Duke Wake Forest games or what? Like,
It's going to be funny when we eventually don't have to preview Florida State games anymore. We just make fun of them when they're like losing games in the Big 12. That's going to be very funny.
there you go. My kid has a soccer game at we'll say 1 Eastern next Saturday. Am I missing the soccer game so I can stay home and watch the first half of the Tecmo Bowl? Because that's coming up.
It's going to be one of the most interesting games on the slate, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Very-
I think so.
Very even matchup by 2 teams who love to shoot themselves in the foot. That's going to be on absolute drugs. The only problem I have with this is that they put it on ACC Network instead of the CW. They put UNC UVA on CW, unfortunately, for the nooner.
I was going to say they got the whole network situation completely wrong for the noon slate. That should have been flipped.
Yeah, you can flip it. You can flip a coin 10 times. I think Georgia Tech would win 5 and Virginia Tech would win 5, and they both try to do it like 5 different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, with turnovers and mental yeah.
coaching,
that's gonna be a fun one.
Game management, bad quarterback play. Oh my!
Weird timeouts. Like
turnovers.
the whole gamut.
Yeah.
The whole gamut. So we're going to come back. We're going to preview week 9. Oftentimes it's been Wednesday nights. So keep it tuned here. Obviously with a Thursday game, it's got to be before then. So, good.
The recap shows, we enjoy doing these Saturday night shows because it's fresh off of a day full of college football, and why go to bed when you just talk about all the games? So we've really enjoyed doing the live shows the last couple of years, especially. We've kind of picked this up, and this has been our thing.
Yeah, completely.
But the preview shows, picking games, that's our bread and butter.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's our that's our bread and butter.
That's where we're at our best.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/@the ACC Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon. You'll find out when we are going live. You'll be able to come join us in the chat as we go through these games. Again, previewing them on Wednesday, probably recapping them Saturday night. Please hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you come join us and join in the discussion. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of new people this year, so do that. Mike, we're on Twitter at FTRSJoey, at Mike McDaniel SI, together at BC Podcast ACC. Send us an email, basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Thank you. We're on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify and Amazon Music and wherever you find your podcasts. We're there on audio format as well. Mike, where else on the social medias?
Facebook.com/basketball conference rate review. Find most of our podcasts there. Please subscribe to YouTube. Please
do.
Shout out to
Appreciate the
Scott.
folks who've done that.
Shout out to Scott. Glad to have him back on the recaps.
Absolutely.
He went
Scott
to
had
bed,
to drop
but-
off a little bit early. Yeah, he was about to pass out on the stream. I don't know if you saw that earlier, but
Yeah, I did. Yeah, wasn't good.
can't imagine almost falling asleep at like 1:30 in the morning. But
Couldn't be me.
we'll talk to him about that after we get done here. So
Yeah, Stern talking too, and he's cutting up our audio and doing all the producing stuff that we pay him to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Inexcusable.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, that's all I got. Anything else?
On to week 9.
On to week 9. We're gonna come back and preview those games. How's that sound?
Good. The year's going by fast, but like we've had years where it's been faster. So this we're at a decent pace.
Yeah, I think it's going okay. Time goes a little bit slower when you have small children. So
right. Yeah, that's my point. Agree.
All right, for that guy, Mr. Mike McDaniel, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very, very soon to preview week 9. Until then, go ACC.